Hi everyone, welcome to the next video in our little series talking about the songs from the Frantics EP. And the first song we're going to talk about is New Ground. And obviously Sis, the idea kind of started with you. So why don't you kick it off?
Well, I was on a drive home from work one day and I was just having a bit of a reflect. Must have been either getting to the end of the year or into the new year. I was thinking about my faith and what I wanted it to look like in the coming year. And because I've been a Christian for a really, really long time now, since I was about 7 or 8, I was thinking how easy it can be to get comfortable and how much actually I wanted to be able to push myself a bit and not just settle into this kind of comfortable relationship where you just sort of, plod along and nothing ever really changes. And it just suddenly came to me that it's a bit like wearing a really comfy pair of shoes. And that, when you get that pair of shoes or even slippers or something you really love, and you just, like, every time you put your feet in them, you just think, oh, these are just the best, and they mould to your foot. And all these thoughts are going through my head as I'm driving back from Haverhill on whatever day it was. But I was thinking, but there's a point where those shoes aren't fit for purpose anymore. They might feel great, but actually probably they're full of holes and they actually aren't watertight anymore, and they're not really fit for purpose. So sometimes you have to break in a new pair of shoes, and actually what that means is that your feet will be in better nick, you'll be able to walk further, run further, and it's not very comfortable to start with, but actually it allows you to walk on. And so these were sort of going through my head, and I came up with this, which has become the pre-chorus, this little bit, and I sort of quickly and safely recorded.
good qualifier.
Yeah, and just kind of sang it into my phone as I was driving along, and got home and said, I've got an idea for a song. I don't know what the rest of it's going to be, but this is my idea, and sent it to Steve. And then a little while later, you sent back a kind of rough guitar riff, and then we sort of padded out the rest of the song, didn't we? I think then you did the verse then and the chorus. I then did the second verse based on what you'd done for the first verse. And then it's really odd, isn't it? Like suddenly you're like, oh, wow, we've got a song.
Yeah.
First song.
Exactly. I mean, so what was interesting about it as well is it kind of was where we found, where we kind of found our feet stylistically, I think, as well. Because when I first kind of approached you, I'd really gotten into Billie Eilish, and I was just like, oh, shall we do something a bit like electronic and a bit like, Billie Eilish and Phineas, because they're brother and sister as well. So I kind of thought, I just did something with lots of samples and loops I can't remember what DAW I was using at that point. I think it was even GarageBand.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
It was GarageBand at that point, yeah. And it sounded really, really good, but it just didn't feel organic. It didn't feel like us. And so I just thought, you know what? The other thing I've been wanting to do musically, I was like, and I was at that point, and still am, obviously, but it was really listening to a lot of McFly at that point. So I just thought, let's just lean in hard into that pop rock thing. Then let's just do pop rock, and let's just go for it. And it's just been kind of such a learning curve for me, like learning how to layer up guitar parts and layer up, because there are loads, like Chris will tell you, Bethan's husband who's mixing it for us, he will tell you exactly how many guitar parts I did. Like lots that are probably just there for texture that you might not hear, but yeah. And that was really good, because that was the song that kind of said, right, that's it, that's the style, we are a pop rock act, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And it was really, really fun. And and I really resonated with the kind of theme that Beth and I come up with as well, because like in 2020, I'd been a Christian for 20 years. I became a Christian in the year 2000, and so obviously I was at the point as well where I was reflecting on my faith and reflecting on how I wanted to go forward and how what I wanted my relationship with God to look like, because like any relationship, any friendship, any romantic relationship, any marriage, if you don't kind of change things up and invest in it purposefully, at the very worst it ends, but at the very least it can get a bit stagnant and a bit dull and and it was just like,
I think those lyrics we kind of focused on were those early days of eyes wide, hands held high, that kind of real sort of innocent abandon, wasn't it, to I want this, I want to be a follower of Jesus. And then it kind of moves into almost just like falling in step with each other, and like, do I sometimes look right through you? Like, do I even notice sometimes that God is even there? Because he's become so part of my life, which is amazing, but I don't want it to be like he's invisible, because he's just sort of sat there, just sort of hovering as I'm sort of going about my daily life.
Yeah, and we wanted the songs to have a real hopeful tone as well, because I think also, like, when you're thinking along those kind of lines, it can be very easy to become very self-condemning.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, like, Jesus died on the cross, so God wouldn't condemn us of anything. So,
like, so be nice to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, we really kind of went in this really hopeful direction with the song, where it was just like, actually, like the chorus, we're breaking new ground now, every day a new adventure to follow you on. And the song kind of transitions from minor chords to, a major chord, kind of like lands on that one chord, and just takes it to a really stable home place.
And it doesn't sound scary. It's not like it's a terrifying sort of jumping over a cliff. It's just taking that next step, isn't it? Just that next little, bit of progress. So it's not like you have to go completely out of your comfort zone. It's just being willing to move on a little bit, and it being exciting, not always terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. The next step doesn't have to look drastic, does it? Like, sometimes the next step is just the next step, but it is kind of like moving, with purpose, and just getting recentered on the reason that you're doing this whole life thing. It's really cool. So that brings us to the end of this episode.
Yeah, and that is new ground.
And that's new ground, and we hope you guys are really enjoying it, and do all the usual things like, comment, subscribe, all those delightful social media-y things. Follow us on Spotify and all of the places where musical stuff is available.
So thanks everyone.